So here we were talking about example 3.2, and look at that. Here we have GDP per capita. So richer countries are here, right? High per capita. Poorer countries are here, right? Now, if you measure satisfaction of life index, you will see that this what it seems that having higher per capita, having more money to spend per capita, uh, is associated with higher satisfaction with life, right? So see, GDP per capita, remember, GDP per capita tells us the amount of GDP for every, on an average, for every person in the country, right? Total GDP divided by total population gives us GDP per capita. Richer countries have high GDP per capita, poorer countries have low GDP per capita. And here we see that satisfaction in life is also seen to be related with that. Now let us talk about little bit about budget constraint. So what is it? So this is section 3.2. See, budget constraint. This constraint that consumers face as a result of of limited income. So see, limited income is high, right? This is the amount of food, this is the amount of clothing, and this is price of food, this is price of clothing. You multiply, this is the money. So this is amount of food, this is price of food. You multiply, this is the amount that is spent on food, and this is a unit of clothing, this is price of clothing, this is the money they spend on clothing, right? You add them together, you have income. So total spending is 80. Total spending is 80. So market basket is food is 0 and clothing is 40. And now what happens? This is the $80, and what? Food is 20 and clothing is 30 units in this combination B. So this one is telling us the budget line is here. In this case, price of food. Price of food is what? Here, if we follow that, is initially $1, and price of clothing is what? $2. So and total income I is what? 80, right? So now if we do the budget line, let us say price of food times F, total unit of food that they consume, right? This total unit of food that they consume is what? 1 multiplied by F is just F. And then price of clothing is $2 per unit, and C is the total unit of clothing. So 2C, right? So this expenditure must be equal to the amount of income available, which is 80. So this one. This is what they are showing here at the budget line. And you can also see here all these different combinations cost the same amount. These are all the combinations that is available for the same amount of money, given the price of food is $1 and price of clothing is $2 per unit. So we can now plot that. We can plot food here, right, and clothing in here. And then this is, if all the money, all $80, right? Remember, $80 is income, I is 80. All money is spent on clothing. This is maximum they can buy. So how do we get that? So it will be I divided by price of clothing. See, this one. So if you divide 80 with 2, price of clothing is 40. So 40 units he can buy maximum. All money spent for clothing, no food. Food is 0 here. On the other hand, what about that G? That G is what? I divided by PF, right? I is income, price of food. So if you divide that 80 income with what? Price of food is $1 per unit is 80. So that is what we have here, right? And then we join A and G. All the other combinations fall on this line. They tell us how much of different combinations of food and clothing the consumer can buy given that $80 income. So this is the budget line. When we add or when we connect the two corner points, right, A and G, we get this budget line. All these points on the budget line will tell us different combinations of food and clothing that they can buy at a given level of income. Now what about the slope? So slope between B and D, see this is a straight line, so it will be have the same slope between AB, BD or DE, same slope. Now between B and D, slope between B and D, we have what? Slope. So you see, so this is what 10 units, right? Difference between 30 and 20, and D is what 20 units. So the B is 30 and what 40. Sorry, 20, and D is 20 units of clothing and 40 units of food. See that? So this is the difference. This is what? This is like change in F, right, delta F, and this one is like change in C, delta C. So this slope, see that slope is rise versus run. Remember, horizon vertical difference is delta C, horizontal difference is delta F. So divide and you get the and you'll get the value. So divide 10, 30 minus 20 is 10, and what 40 minus 20 is 20, right? Divide that difference and you get half. So that is the slope. And now here we can tell you that because we have let us now tell you about this is the intercept of the budget line. See, given the equation of the budget line, right? So remember PF times F plus PC times C equal to what? I, right? And then I equal to what? So let us see. Let me see. So see from the previous slide, this is the equation, right, of the budget line. And from here, if you simplify, simplify from here, you can come here, and then you see this is the intercept, this one, right? And then this then becomes this slope. Price of food divided by price of clothing, right? Food we measure here, clothing we measure here, and the ratio of price of food to clothing is the slope of this budget line. See that? So we can here this is the ratio of, and then you divide, you know that this is what price of food is 10, price of clothing is 20, so result is what half, right? Look at that. This price of food is 1, price of clothing is 2, you divide, you get half. And this 10 and 20 is coming from here. This is 10 and this is 20. So delta C, delta F. That is what they're saying. Okay, hopefully this is equation 3.2. Okay, so let us go to the next slide. How will the budget line change if there is what? The income double. See, remember I we said is 80, and we said price of clothing is $2 per unit, and price of food is what? Price of food is $1 per unit. Okay, now is what? So this is, see, this is 80 divided by 2 equal to 4. Okay, Okay, and now this is what? This is 40, right? So income is 40. So here is 40 divided by what? 40 divided by this is 40 and price is 2, price of clothing, right? This, and then when income is 40, divide that by price of clothing is 40. See that? So when income changes, what happens? When income changes, the entire budget line will shift. So now they can buy only this one with $40 income and the existing price of clothing unchanged and price of food unchanged, right? The consumer can buy anything within that limited area. He cannot buy what he could use, what he used to buy. He cannot buy what he used to buy before. See that? Okay. Now this is one. What about this one? L1, L2. L1, L2, this is 80 and 160. See that? So here what happens is that if income increases from $80 to what? From $80 to 160, right? So this is what? So look at that. Here we get what? 160 divided by 2, which is what? 80. See that? Here. And then now 160 divided by the same price of food is 1, he can buy 160. So this is the intercept here. So again we have what the new budget line is will shift up. So when income and to the right, so when income increases, the line will shift parallel. So L1 is parallel to L2. Remember, slope did not change. Slope, remember, depends on what we said in the previous slide. Slope is the negative of price of food, price of clothing. These prices are not changing, only income changing. As a result, what? Budget line will, when income increases, budget line will shift up and to the right in this direction. When income decreases from 80 to 40 or any other lower level, budget line will move to the left, right? Okay. So budget line move from L1 to L3 when income decreases and L1 to L2 when income increases. Now what about this one? What about this one? Effects of a change in price on the budget line. See that price changes. Here we have clothing, here we have food, right? So this is 40 and 80, right? And this is price of food is $1. Let us say that we increase price of food to $2. So now what is going to happen? Let us take a look at slope. You know that price of food divided by price of clothing, that was the slope, right? Now price of food was 1 and price of clothing was what? 2. So this slope used to be half, right? Minus half. Now when price of food is 2, price of clothing is also 2, so this is going to be minus 1. See, so the slope is increasing. And here look at that, this is price of food is 50 cents. See, half a dollar. So if you now measure, you will see that's that what, half divided by what, 2 is what, minus half times what, 2 divided by 1 is what, and yeah, so this is 2 divided by 1. So if I bring it on top, it will be 2 divided by 1. So when I break it and bring it on top, it will be 1 divided by 2. So it will be 1 over 4. So see, so this slope is smaller than this slope. So what we can say now is that given price of clothing does not change, remain the same. So and income it does not change, remain the same, 80. In this case, if price of food increases, the budget line will rotate inside, because they can buy with higher price of food, they can buy less and less with the same amount of money, right? On the other hand, with the same price of clothing and same income, if price of food decreases, food become cheaper, they can buy more and more. So rotate that way, L1 to L2. this intercept will not change, but this intercept is now going to change in this direction. See that? Okay. Or this is going to change in this direction. See that? Okay. All right. Now what about consumer choice? What about consumer choice? The maximizing market basket must satisfy two conditions, right? It must be located on the budget line. So and then it must give the consumer the most preferred combination of goods and services. It has to be the most preferred compared to others. That is why we are talking, this has to be most favored because it is supposed to give us maximum the market basket, right? Maximum the level of satisfaction. So let us see. One is that, yeah, locate on the budget line means that spend all the money that was available. So let us take a look. Maximizing consumer satisfaction. Here we will show you. See that? So look at what is, this is the clothing and this is food, right? We are measuring, and this is the intercept 40, this is the intercept 80, right, for food. So again the same, right? The price of clothing is what, $2 per unit. Price of food is what, $1 per unit. And income equal to what, 80 dollars, right? $80. And now what happens? Consumers satisfaction, we want to maximize it. How? Look at that. In here, given that budget constraint, this one, right? Given this budget constraint, given his income and the price of those two goods, his budget line is fixed. So his task will be to get as much utility as he can. So he wants to move as much as he can in this direction. Remember, we said that a movement up and to the right will increase his utility, and that will, maximization will happen at that point of tangency. See, at that point A, utility curve U2 is tangent to that budget line, that blue straight line, budget line. And that is where utility will be maximized, right? So because the consumer would like to be there, but he cannot afford it. It is outside his budget line. Budget line means what? Recall please, he can buy anything here. The consumer can buy anything below and to the left of that blue budget line, but he cannot go beyond, right? Now U3, that D, he prefers D, he wants to go there but he cannot afford to. What about U1? At U1 the thing is what? At U1, look at that, U1 is not tangent. U1, there is an intercept, right? Look at that B. At that point B, if the consumer consume on U1, then look at the intersection of his budget line, blue budget line, and that U1 indifference curve. The thing is what? The thing is that U1 is lower than U2. See that? U1 is lower than U2. So the consumer does not want to be at B. He wants to be at A, at a tangent point. Also here, if we put another point here, say this is point T, that intercept, right? Then that T, look at that. At T also, at T he is again at U1. He wants to go to U2. Is that okay? Now at that point of tangency A, at A, the point of maximization, the MRS between the two goods equals the price ratio at B. However, because the MRS at B, however, because the MRS equal to minus 10 divided by 10 equal to 1 is greater than the price ratio half, satisfaction is not maximized. See that? Satisfaction is not maximized. So anytime we can say that at this tangent point of tangency, let us see, we have slope of the indifference curve. Remember MRS, slope of indifference curve MRS, and price of food is PF, and price of clothing is PC. See that? This is the ratio of the budget line. This is the slope of the budget line, and this is the slope of the what? Slope of the indifference curve. So when they are equal, you have tangent at point A. You have tangent at point A. So that is the condition for maximizing consumer utility, right? And what is, let us examine what is happening at B. At B, if you draw that tangent, look at that tangent, right? You can see that tangent. So you will see that tangent, the slope of u1 indifference curve at point B is what? MRS is actually higher than the slope of the budget line. Look at this. This budget line has lower slope than this tangent, right? This tangent. So this is the slope of the budget line. So you see that this ratio, this equality will not hold here. Only at the tangent we have what? Only at that tangent we have equality. At any other point we will not. What about this one? At this point T that we have created, if you examine, draw the budget a tangent here. Now compare slope of that tangent with slope of that budget line. See, you'll see that what? That budget line, that MRS is less than what? Price of food divided by price of clothing, right? Price of food divided by price of clothing. So that we have. Now satisfaction is maximized given the budget constraint at the point where what? MRA is equal to PFPC, right? So this is equation 3.3. So marginal benefit, and we have marginal cost. So marginal benefit is what? Benefit from the consumption of one additional unit of a good, and marginal cost of one additional unit of a good. So we can then say that satisfaction is maximized when the marginal benefit is the benefit associated with the consumption of one additional unit of food is equal to the marginal cost, the cost of the additional unit of food. The marginal benefit is measured by the MRS. So this is marginal benefit, this is marginal cost. These two are equal at the tangent point. Remember that tangent point. This is the indifference curve, and this budget line is tangent at that point. There we have equality. MRS equal to the ratio of prices. This is slope of the budget line equal to slope of indifference curve, and then marginal benefit also equal marginal cost. So designing new automobile, look at that. Here they give us an example. Following up on example 3.1, we consider two groups of customers. This is group A and this is group B. See that? So the consumers in A are willing to trade off a considerable amount of interior space for some additional acceleration. For this is the customer for what? This is the customer for Mustang, Ford Mustang, right? Look, uh, look at their situation. If the budget, if they have $10,000 to spend, they spend $70,000 on acceleration and $3,000 on size. On the other hand, if we have this is the Ford Explorer, right? And they want to spend what, 7,500 on size, to have more size, but only 2,500 on acceleration. For this group, room is more important. For this group A, speed is more important. Now what about corner solution? We can have a situation that we do not have a tangent point, right? So this one, remember, this is food F, This is origin, this is clothing. We had this convex indifference curve, and this was the balance, this was the budget line, and that is what? That is the equilibrium E, right? And now what happens? Now let us take a look at that corner solution. We have frozen yogurt here and we have ice cream here. So then what happens? This corner solution at point B, this corner solution U1, right? Here what happens? Here we do not have a tangent point in the middle. Here we do not have a tangent point in the middle. See, but U1 is what? U1 is B, right? U1 is B. So this is ice cream and frozen yogurt. Here, this person, he's saying his corner point is here. That means that all his money he will spend on ice cream. He likes too much ice cream. He doesn't want to buy any frozen yogurt. All money is spent on what? Given the budget line AB, right? The highest level of satisfaction is achieved by B on indifference curve U1, where MRS is greater than the ratio of the price of the ice cream to the price of the frozen yogurt, right? And still, look at that. Still here, he's not satisfied. Still, MRS is greater than the what? Ratio of price of ice cream divided by price of what? Price of yogurt. See that? So he still wants more. He ran out of money. Otherwise, he would like to continue having more. So whenever we have corner solution, one reason may be that has to do with preferences, right? This person prefer ice cream so much. And in this corner solution, in this case, the marginal rate of substitution for one good is in a chosen market basket is not equal to the slope of the budget line, right? As it is here. Remember, we said for the regular case here, MRS has to be what? Minus PF over PC, right? So that one. Let us ignore the minus sign from both sides. So MRS equal to PF over PC. We have that one here, right? So consumer choice of healthcare. Look at that. This is one example they give in your textbook. Here they are saying that consumer preferences for healthcare versus other goods. So this is healthcare and this is all other goods, right? And then the curve U1 applies to consumer with low income. Given the consumer's budget constraints, satisfaction is maximized at point A. So look at his budget constraint, this one, low income person, and his satisfaction tangent point is at point A. Here he is consuming Q1 of other goods, H1 of healthcare. On the other hand, this is a higher income person, this is point B. Here he has what? H2 and what? Q2. And income increases, the budget line shifts to the right, and curve U2 becomes feasible. The consumer moves to point B with greater consumption of both healthcare and other goods. Curve U3 applies to high-income consumer and implies less willingness to give up healthcare for other goods. Moving from point B to point C. Moving from point B to point C, the consumer's consumption of healthcare increases considerably from H2 to H3. Look at that, from H2 to H3. While her consumption of other goods increases only modestly from Q2 to Q3. From O2 to O3. See that? Okay. So we can then compare three different equilibrium corresponding to three different level of income people, right? Now this is one example for college trust fund. So we have what, just as before, we plot education in the horizontal axis, other consumption on the vertical axis, right? When given a college trust fund that must be spent on education, the student moves from A to B, a corner solution, right? From A to B. Let us see what is happening from A to B. If, however, so if suppose the student he gets a trust fund, a college gets a trust fund that must be spent on education and cannot be spent on anything else. So what happens? So now, um, this is consumption of education. This is other consumption, and then so this is the budget line without the trust fund. Now with the trust fund, because of that trust fund, they can then consume more, and they will switch from P to B. But at that B, look at that, B is on U2, right? It's not at a point of tangency. Now if on the other hand they become flexible and say that the trust fund could be spent on other consumption as well as education, the student could be better off at C. At C, the U3 indifference curve, the highest attainable indifference curve, is tangent to his budget line, including the trust fund, right? So all of so you see the tangency here. C is on U3 indifference curve compared to B. B is on U2 indifference curve. So now U3 is what is preferred to U2, right? Okay. Okay.